Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I am addicted to using Google AI and chat boxes in general. Give you an idea how addicted I am. I actually have to detoxify from it at some point because some days I will waste 6, 8 hours searching things and going on these deep dives where at the end of the deep dive it felt like I was talking about a fictional book, right? What if this happens? How do I handle it? What if that happens? And sometimes at first the questions might be insightful, right? But then I get into these fiction modes and so just for fun and just to explore, right? It kind of reminds me, as a kid, I had a fascination like that, not with ChatGPT obviously because it didn't exist, but I used to do this with my calculator. I would explore all sorts of math subjects. I was 5 years old. My dad had given me a scientific calculator, and I taught myself all sorts of math using it, and it was like a fun video game. And I obviously don't have as much time as I do as a 5 year old. But I like to go into deep dives. Google AI is very good at reading in between the lines in various social situations that I may not have thought about. I'm going to give a couple of examples. 2 years ago, I had a big upset. I was living in a house with a number of housemates and also the apartment manager. Our owner had hired her nephew to manage the place. And for some reason that I still cannot comprehend, I've done some deep dives on Google AI and have a few good guesses, but that I still cannot completely comprehend. I got on the wrong side of the apartment manager, and he micromanaged how I lived there. He would complain about various noises. Now, what did I do? Did I play Taylor Swift as loud as it would go on my machine? No, never. I would be eating, I would be making art, I would just be walking around the house, and he would complain when nobody else would. Often, when he would complain, his our argument would be so loud that that would actually wake people up. The initial activity would have just sailed. He had this room in the house that was separated by the kitchen by only a curtain, and he took the job understanding that, right? You can't take a job at NASA and then complain about how loud the rocket engines are, right? Or take a job as a DJ and complain that you're going to lose your hearing, right? That's the equivalent of what he did, right? It got so bad that one week there was a girl in the house that I liked, and I forgot to make a move on her because I was so consumed about dealing with Mark. His name is Mark. And one day, the girl and I, we were discussing about how to deal with Mark the next time this happened because she had dealt with it a couple of times too. And I completely missed how interested she was in me. And I'm still upset about that situation. And I've learned to play it much more aggressively. If there's even a slight chance that the girl is interested in me, I've learned to not let it pass nowadays. But that introduces its own set of challenges too. So I tend to get on these waves of which way I handle things. But anyway, one day things came to a head with Mark. What had happened is we were showing the apartment to two other potential tenants, and as I'm talking to the two tenants about the living situation and the amenities, I thought Mark was out of the home. I mistakenly went up to them and said, "Yeah, just be mindful of Mark, you know, and it's okay. Just tune it out if this happens, right?" Mark bursts out of his room, yelling and screaming about what I had done the night before that warranted him doing whatever he did. I had to pull myself out of the house because I have anger management problems. Situations like that are exactly what can cause me to blow up on people. I had to pull myself away from the house, and as I do, I take a short walk, and as I do, my phone rings. I thought it was Mark wanting to defend himself even more, and so I almost didn't want to answer it. I answered it, and I was just about to be aggressive when I realized it's actually the owner of the house. and she came on to apologize about Mark's conduct. Apparently, one of my roommates had called her to complain about what had happened that morning, and I told her, what does Mark want? I'm really sorry that whatever I'm doing is kind of upsetting to him or whatever the situation. She says, don't worry about it. I fired Mark from the position, and I literally had to mute my phone because I was so excited for that. I finally could have some peace at the house. I'd finished the walk and I came back home, and I actually went out to buy some food to come home to prepare to celebrate Mark's departure. That's how excited I was. I came home and I saw Mark packing and everything, and I asked Mark, I pretended to not know because I didn't want Mark to see. I was like, what's going on? Can I help you with some of this stuff? And he told me about how he was fired from his position. And I told him, well, do you need help? Do you have a place lined up? And do you need help moving stuff? I was trying to pretend to be helpful. And he told me, no, he has like a month to get out of here. And my heart just sinks. It's one thing to have an apartment manager managing the place. It's quite another to have a disgruntled employee that you have to sleep next door to, right? And that my heart sank, but at the same time, I couldn't let Mark see that my heart sank. And these are the kind of situations I would have loved to have Google AI 2 years ago to help resolve, right? Both with how am I going to make the move on the girl? I asked Google AI that, and they gave me a lot of insight on that. Unfortunately, it's 2 years too late. I don't have her contact information anymore, and also how to deal with Mark, right? And it's obviously too late for that too. I would have loved to stay there. The situation with Mark blowing up happened right after Thanksgiving. I was grading finals on the move, on the road grading finals, and it created a lot of drama and chaos, and it probably contributed to me not getting a contract at that school the following semester, right? All the chaos. Unfortunately, my work situation and my home situation, the dramas often feed each other, right? Drama at home leads to my performance slipping at work. Dramas at work lead to me not taking good care of the home, potentially getting myself into roommate drama. And so I have a tendency for downward spirals like that, right? Had I had Google AI back in 2023 when this was all unfolding, I might not have moved out of that place actually. No, I may have been a little bit more defensive. Part of the reason I moved out of the place was I used to keep a lot of art in my home, and the thought of having an enemy near all my worldly possessions bothered me. And Google AI suggested to be a little bit more minimal in my home when I'm living with an adversary like that, and to, more importantly, to treat the tenant relationship as more adversarial than I like to, right? Sometimes I like to bump elbows with everybody that I run into, and sometimes some of these elbows can't be bumped, right? I didn't realize that, right? I got to be a little bit more mindful. I have what I think is a dream job, but sometimes I get too elbow bumpy with my bosses and my colleagues. And when things go right, it might be okay, right? What I would really love is to see one day we have a post scarcity society where all of these things can just be good sportsmanship, right? After all, I compete in a backgammon tournament. Sometimes we gamble there, but usually most people have the good sense of only gambling what they can afford to lose, right? And if they lose, they have a good day, right? It's good sportsmanship, right? Imagine if the money you made at your job, it was nice to have, but not a necessity, right? Then you could go to work with good sportsmanship, right? I dream of one day being able to do that, right? Imagine if every home in our block was affordable to live in, and if you had bad, if it didn't fit in one home, you had good sportsmanship and you shook hands and you walked down the street to the next home, right? I think I would thrive in such an environment, actually. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.